So we're here to talk about if Nintendo is doomed to lose the next generation of players. They're in an interesting spot right now where they just launched their new console, but are the kids, the next generation, are they interested? Are they still wanting to play console games? That's a big question that's looming that Nintendo is definitely thinking about.
Yeah, it's something that's been on our mind and something that we were tasked to think about a lot when we worked at Nintendo. And it's an interesting time to ask the question because obviously the Switch 2 is breaking records, but at the same time, it feels like there is a change that is happening in terms of the habits of younger fans of video games who are getting exposed to things, coming up with things in a very different way than we did in this kind of more established, older generation is. It makes you ask the question. It's like, okay, things are great now, but looking ahead 10 years, what's going to play out then?
Right. They have to keep adding new players to their fan base, obviously, to maintain success and to maintain their footing, in the market. But are those new players still coming in at the same rate, or are they just continuing to sell very well to all of us?
The same people.
The decrepit, aging gamers, we're just...
Decrepitude is setting in, it's coming fast.
1 foot in the grave.
Yeah.
We could just die off, and then Nintendo doesn't have anyone to sell it to anymore.
Yeah.
So, yeah, you were saying this is something that we worked on for a long time when we were at Nintendo. Nintendo has been really thinking about this for upwards of 10, 15 years, well before Switch 2, like way back, even in the...
I pretty distinctly remember in the late Wii U generation, I went to one of these big global meetings where Mr. Iwata was presenting, and he was like, this is the challenge that this team needs to think about now.
Right.
And he had a lot of data that was presenting, like, look, even back then, smart devices are becoming the go-to device for young kids. He had some very compelling data of look at the average age of all these franchises that you might think are for all ages or even for kids. And Pokemon was one of the big examples he had. You think every kid grows up with Pokemon? No. It's the same people who came up and are just getting older and older and older, and we are not replenishing them with new kids. So we all, as Nintendo, need to be very proactive in not just assuming that the next generation will be, I'm a kid, I want to play a video game, I'm going to play a Nintendo.
Yeah.
That we cannot think that way anymore. That was the message he told all of us.
Yeah, that was something that Nintendo had taken for granted, I think, for a long time.
Sure.
There was just an overall assumption at the company where they were like, yes, we are a family-friendly company. We are one of the biggest, family-friendly gaming companies. So obviously, kids are coming into the gaming ecosystem through a Nintendo platform. But it was very clear that even, 10, 12 years ago, that wasn't the case anymore. And that was definitely something that Nintendo had taken for granted. And we all realized in that meeting with Mr. Iwata, a very clear message of no. To get the next generation into the Nintendo ecosystem, you're going to have to actually do some work to do that. You can't just assume that they're going to be, automatically entering into the Nintendo ecosystem through a Nintendo platform.
Right, and I think that was one of the changes that people saw, with their own eyes, before you would see kids out and about, with a Game Boy, playing Pokemon or something else, and then at some point that changed over to
an iPad or an iPhone. Yeah.
And again, if you think of that dynamic does make sense because an iPad is something that a parent probably already has,
or they're just handing them their phone
here,
or
take my phone, and again this game's free. Oh, perfect.
Totally.
I'm not looking for the richest game experience here. I'm looking to get through the next 30 minutes on this car ride or something.
Right.
So that does make sense that just from a parent behavior, the barrier to entry is so much lower because it's something you already have, and it's either the game's free or I'm spending literally $1 versus I got to shell out $100 or more to get this just $30 a game. And again, if your family is not already super invested in games, that's not going to happen.
Right, exactly. They may not even know of the options if they're not super invested in dedicated gaming hardware. And I think I had a very clear memory of when these big discussions were happening with Mr. Iwata. I think that was the only time in my entire 14 plus year career at Nintendo that I saw the fear in the eyes of Nintendo, of the executives, of the higher ups. Like, that was truly a moment of like, oh no, we are doomed if we cannot figure this out because of this changing habit, especially of, you know, what you were saying of like the barrier to enter is so low and so cheap. How can you compete with that? Because at the end of the day, whatever Nintendo is doing, you're still going to have to shell out a lot more money for a dedicated something for people to even realize what kind of experience you're offering. And that's just something that was, you know, not possible at the time. And there was real concern. And I think literally, like, out of all the things that people say, like, oh, Nintendo must be so scared of Sony, Nintendo must be so scared of Call of Duty, blah, blah, blah. No, they were not scared of any of those things, but the mobile gaming kids and how that became the behavior or the entry point that a lot of kids had into the world of gaming was like striking some real fear into the hearts of people that work there, us included. We were like, oh.
Yeah. and the thing that makes it hard for Nintendo is the games that kids come up with are very sticky.
Yeah.
So it's like once you get in that Roblox ecosystem, that Minecraft ecosystem, you're going to be in it for a long time because you've probably, you know, you've made content, you've experienced content, but also your friend group is kind of rallying around that. So it's not just a game, it becomes a social gathering place too. And there's kind of, you know, different like Fortnite is also that. That's on a Switch system, but something like a Roblox really isn't.
Right.
So it's like, what is the off-ramp for them to actually get interested in the Nintendo thing if these games are so good at holding on to these kids? Even as they get older, it's like, you know, kids play Minecraft, but adults play Minecraft too. Like, there is no exit point if you become a Minecraft fan. You're just in it.
You're just in it.
Yeah.
And there's so much data, so much interesting data about this idea of gaming being like the quote third place. Like, you know, you and I are old, and when we grew up, you know, to play with our friends, to socialize with our friends, we were going to like a real life IRL playground.
Yes.
Or you're like hanging out with your friends after school at the mall or something like that. The real life mall and the real life playground is now replaced by these virtual spaces that is offered by a Roblox, by a Minecraft, by a Fortnite. So it's becoming a different way of experiencing a game. Like, we played, like, you know, classic Nintendo games by ourselves or maybe with some friends, but that was not our only point of social interaction. Like, these games are so much more than a regular game at this point. They're like the meeting point for these kids. They're the place where they're socializing and making these deep relationships with their friends. We saw some interesting data about how this has become where they date, where they meet their significant others, especially when the Gen Alphas graduate to the Gen, you know, the Gen Zs. Like, they're meeting in these places and doing life stuff. Like, I met my spouse there, or I met my boyfriend there, or whatever. So it's so much more than like you and I, you know, as kids playing Mario at home. You know, it's a different experience, and I think that just the behavioral change is really interesting because that's just not something Nintendo games can do.
Exactly. You think about like the introduction of game chat and like, was that some sort of like, hey, we need something like that too, where this system, you know, no matter what game you're playing, you can always stay connected to your friends. And, you know, it seems like maybe game chat has not been the slam dunk hit that they wanted it to be, but
So
if you just kind of distill it down to like what are they trying to get at here by adding a feature like that, like that feels to me like the impetus of why you would even do something like that.
Exactly, and they even said so in some of those quotes from the Switch 2 development team, how they wanted it to be a virtual playground. They called it that because they understand that that is the habit of people now. They've found these virtual meeting places within games like Roblox, Minecraft, Fortnite, and they are trying to replicate that experience on a Nintendo platform, but they just don't have the right audience there. The audience on a Switch 2 is not an 8-year-old. It's probably a person like us, a grown-up, an adult.
Exactly. Yeah, in the game chat marketing, those are adults.
Those are adults
playing those games.
Exactly.
There's not kids.
Right.
And that they have a tall task because, again, about 10 years ago, like the whole marketing team at Nintendo got tasked. So like, you need to make this a major priority.
Yeah.
And frankly, it was not something that we were experts in before because, we
took it for granted.
We were marketing games to 20-year-olds, 30-year-olds. So we had to really become experts. And what we learned was like,
this is hard.
It's very hard. It's very restrictive because at least in this country, there's a lot of like laws protecting kids, which is a good thing, but it means as somebody doing marketing, like there's a lot of things that you can't do. And it's just very expensive. Like one of the solutions, well, just throw money at it.
Yeah.
That's one way to reach the kids.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of barriers in Nintendo's way of getting the stuff in front of kids the same way they are to these older players.
Yeah, and the thing with marketing to kids is that like you're always one step removed from the actual kid because of these restrictions and the laws, which again is very good. Like if I were a parent, I'd be like, no, don't market to my kid. Like that's horrible. But because of that, you're like kind of like it's like a game of telephone to the kid.
Yeah.
It's like I'm going to tell your mom.
Like, well, I hope the message gets to you.
Yeah. I hope your mom tells you how cool Mario is because that's kind of our only avenue to get to you, the 8-year-old kid. And also like it's just a different like skill set of marketing to kids that I think again because Nintendo had taken this entry into the ecosystem for granted for such a long time, learning that new skill set was pretty challenging. And I remember we did so much work with like the marketing research team to really understand that audience. And we tested so many different like tactics and initiatives to try to get to those kids. And it never worked. They were all kind of like failures, honestly. And I remember feeling like, I don't know if this is possible. It just seems like it's like how do you get there? How do you even talk to them? Now they do advertising inside Roblox. That's how companies are doing it.
Yeah.
That's how they're getting to those kids because they're marketing to them where they are. But Nintendo could never do that. Right? So
you mentioned the parent angle, and that is one of the advantages that Nintendo has, is because there are a lot of people
all of us grown-ups
who have a Switch or a Switch 2, like a good number of them are parents who have kids, and they're saying, hey, little Johnny, check this out, or play this, or this. Oh, this is a franchise
or like if your parent,
that I grew up with.
Right, you want to share that, like those core memories with your child.
Right. So in a sense, that's some of the most effective marketing.
We used to do
that's
that
the inside job right there. That's some of the most effective marketing that they have is these very like loyalist parents who are going to do their darndest to try and like push this stuff on. You're gonna like it.
Yeah.
Put down the Roblox.
I mean, my parents pushed me to love Disney, and I'm a Disney kid now.
Oh, interesting.
So I do think there is a lot of learned behavior. Right. Of course, these kids are with their parents like 24 hours a day.
Right.
And we talked so much at Nintendo about the importance of the co-playing audience.
Sure.
Of a parent playing together with a kid.
But again, you just look at the numbers, like how many of those parents are out there, and then how do you combat the ultimate force of like, well, my friend's playing this, so that's what I want to do. That's how we hang out.
Yeah.
So
too bad, Mom.
Sorry, Mom and Dad, you're lame anyway.
Yeah, and also the other side of that is, as we saw from Switch 2, it's getting more and more expensive to stay in the Nintendo ecosystem, even if you are a parent or an adult. And so now you're being tasked to get in the ecosystem through a $500 console, buy $80 games, and then try to convince your 7-year-old to like it.
Right.
Like, is that entry point just too steep?
Exactly.
Even for a parent, they're like, you know what? I can't even afford this.
Right.
And the kid seems completely happy playing free Roblox or whatever, or some Clash Royale free mobile game on my existing phone and iPad. I'm gonna just let that ride.
Great. Yeah, there really is, since we entered the original Switch generation, the low cost Nintendo hardware has ceased to exist. You know, there used to
Right.
be a 2DS or
Switch
all of those
lights,
those handhelds.
Handhelds are better,
All
yeah.
of those handhelds were very cheap. Those were around
Switch
the
Light
$100
was like $90 to $99,
the
right?
$100
Or, I'm sorry, the 2DS.
the 2DS, right? They're
Yeah.
all around the $100 range. But then after that, when they consolidated everything around the single piece of hardware, you know, it mostly worked well, but that's something that was lost. This
Right.
this very easy, low barrier to entry
Yeah.
where you can get kids in that ecosystem. It's just gone now.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
somebody, you know, at one of these shareholder meetings, a shareholder did ask a very insightful question, which is sometimes rare.
Surprising.
Some of these questions these shareholders
bad,
ask
yeah.
can be bizarre. But they were asking, like, how are you reaching young kids because you have a $500 Switch 2?
Right.
And the answer that Mr. Farakawa gave was basically, yeah, it is more expensive, but we're trying to create all these opportunities for kids to engage with the IP, and we hope, like, it's literally a hope and a prayer that as they get older, that affinity with the IP
Will translate.
will guide them towards the
Yeah.
dedicated gaming hardware. But it's a gamble.
It's a total gamble. And even as he said this quote and we read this quote, there was fear in this quote. There was concern. Because
Right.
they realize that they're losing this particular entry point of a low-cost hardware as a way for kids to get into the ecosystem. Now they have some other entry points, like we talked about. You know, they have the theme parks, the movies, all this merch. That's a little bit lower cost. You could say like a T-shirt costs less than whatever. They recently just launched this My Mario, which they specifically said was aimed towards preschoolers.
Right.
This is a Japan thing.
Like babies.
Babbies.
Basically babies, yes.
Yeah, and it is a line of like, you know, sort of merch mixed with some kind of iPad interactive type of, I don't even want to call it a game because I don't think it's a game.
I don't think it
I think
is,
you're
yeah.
just like playing with Mario's face or
Right.
whatever. But it is a way for them to try to get a kid at least familiar with Mario's face.
Sure.
So at least when they grow up,
who is this weirdo?
who is this mustachioed
Who's this
weirdo?
creep?
Yeah, so
Yeah.
that I mean, this is the play, right? This
Right.
is like seed them with the IP, so that later on when they see Mario somewhere else, they're like, I remember that from when I was 2. That was a good memory that I had when I was a child.
Right.
Maybe I should try out this game.
Right.
You know?
But again, like we keep going back to that statement from the shareholder meeting. It's like it's almost like, yeah, we're conceding this younger
That's right.
generation to all these other things that are out there, this kind of new wave of things.
Mm-hmm.
And boy, do we hope this strategy that we have works out in a couple of years, because
Yeah.
we're going to be in some trouble if it doesn't.
Yeah, because if let's say the kids interact with all the merch and they do the theme parks, their parents take them to the theme parks, whatever. They go to watch the movie, and they grow out of it, and then they go play Minecraft.
Right. Or it's like, yeah, I like wearing the Mario shirt, but I would never play a Mario game
That's
because
for babies.
it doesn't have all the things that I
Yeah,
want
I'm
out
not
of.
hanging out with my
There's
friend.
no social experience in a Mario game.
Not meeting my
Why would-
girlfriend in
right.
Fortnite.
Why would I do that? So,
Yeah, totally.
So there's a lot hanging on that.
I know.
That is going to be interesting to see
Yeah.
how it works out. So
true.
again, but it's not like Nintendo's doing nothing. Like there are a lot of things that Nintendo is actively doing. You mentioned this new Mario line. There were a lot of things that we had our hands in directly at Nintendo that are still there, and some of them are doing pretty well.
Yeah.
They did have this brand. This is in Nintendo of America, at least. This Play Nintendo brand that
for kids.
started
Yeah.
as a website. Again, how many kids are going to websites these days?
That's what we told them when they
try-
launched. We
right.
tried to tell them.
Like at a minimum, like make this into
A mobile app.
into an app, and that was like, well, we have
We
that
have the resources
that
for
would
that.
that would step on the mobile team in Japan, and they're deciding what it
Yeah,
is,
it was
and
rocky.
we have us dedicated. Like it was like a freak out. Like
Yeah, it was a very interesting like ask. 'Cause
Right.
there was so much concern over like how are we getting these kids? They're
Right.
clearly not getting in these other ways through games because it's expensive, they're on mobile, blah blah blah, like all those reasons we listed before. And so the solution or the strategy, the idea was let's start a dedicated channel place where we can start to program some stuff specifically for the kids audience. And there was, we did branding for it. We called it Play Nintendo. It's supposed to be very interactive. Like, if you look on the site, there's things like quizzes and little activities that parents can do with their kids.
Right. But even then, the web team told us the majority of the traffic is older people.
It was all older people.
It was all the dedicated Nintendo fans.
Exactly.
So that's like the blessing and the curse of this stuff. Because again, like we heard about the Happy Meal Pokemon card thing in Japan that got shut down because the scalpers crashed it. It's like you try to do something for one audience.
But it's just the fans
But you've created this rabid fan base who just wants stuff. It's like, on one hand, that's good. On the other hand, it's like, hey, get out of the way. These kids need, like, these wooden amiibos, like, those are going to be sold out in a second.
But by, like, like a 40-year-old.
40-year-old or some scalpers or somebody. Like, these kids are never going to get a whiff of these things. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, so their parents are not going to fight the scalpers for a wooden amiibo.
Exactly. They don't even know what an amiibo is. So it's an interesting kind of contradictory thing that they have going on.
Pokemon really experiences this a lot because they did the museum thing, trying to get a different audience to that the Van Gogh museum. That was overrun by insane Pokemon fans. The cards were supposed to be for a different audience, but that was overrun with ridiculous scalping.
Exactly.
McDonald's, totally.
Right. So it's a blessing and a curse. So there's the Play Nintendo website, but then there's also a Play Nintendo YouTube channel.
Yeah.
Which everything that is made on there is made for a very young audience. There's like a lot of designations you can do in YouTube to designate, like, send this to kids. This is for kids.
Yeah.
And that's due to a lot of those legal protectionary things that they have. So everything in there is for kids. Like, you can't leave comments. The ads are very carefully, protected of what they show there. And that was kind of like one of our final projects.
That was like the straw that broke the camel's back for me.
Trying to get that off the ground, where it just seemed like anything that we proposed was like, no, don't like it, don't want it. It's like, well, what do you actually want to do? Because we need to start experimenting with this stuff. We need to start understanding what's going to work and what's not going to work. And you're just telling us no, like, nothing's going to happen.
It was a weird, just like a weird direction, because we would be told, like, do something to get the kids' audience into the ecosystem.
Right.
And then every idea that we proposed was rejected.
Yeah, it's like, okay, well, here's 20 ideas for videos we could do on a plane. And it's like, well, we hate all of these. Yeah. So it's like, okay, I guess we're back to, you got nothing.
We got nothing. And we did so many. Remember, we had so many samples.
Right.
We did so many test pieces of content of things that we knew worked for the kids' audience that were like proven things that other kid channels were doing that was programming very specifically targeted towards kids that worked.
Right.
And they were not.
But that was kind of, as we were leaving, they were starting to get some early okays to start experimenting with this stuff. And I check in on that channel.
It's doing okay now.
It's actually doing pretty well.
Yeah, it's doing okay now.
It gets views. It seems to, there seem to be certain types of videos that the audience attracts to. Once so Nintendo or YouTube has YouTube Kids, which is a whole other, again, kind of controlled ecosystem. And again, there's certain things that you can do to get your video fed into that, where it can really start to rapidly accumulate views.
Yeah.
And I remember meeting with kind of the head of that whole project at YouTube and understanding, like, well, how does this work and how do we get in this? And he's and obviously they wanted Nintendo. I was like, oh my gosh, like we'll bend over backwards to get your stuff in there. But a lot of times there's like, oh well, we got these hangups and we're concerned. And,
Nintendo was not a very good partner to YouTube Kids.
And we don't know, but that stuff seems to be working now. Some of that content, like if you watch it, it's like, oh, this is
awful.
This is weird. Like, who watches this? But
kids do.
Again, like the kid habit of consuming content is very different.
Yeah.
And it is working. So that's good.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember this being like a thing that I was like, at the very end of my career at Nintendo, I was like, I'm so glad I'm leaving. I've
had enough of this.
I've had enough of this. I actually hate this.
Right.
And like, it was such a struggle to market to this audience, and I didn't really like this audience. I don't like kids. So I'm like, oh, just need to get out of here. Like, this sucks.
Right.
I'm so over it.
So there are these kid, focused marketing initiatives, but it does start to beg the question of like, what is mobile is the platform that the kids are coming up on. So where is the mobile content for kids? And this is something that Pokemon's actually done very well.
They do a good job
with that. They have a lot of different mobile apps. A lot of it is very clearly aimed at kids.
Like their newest one, the little puzzle
exactly,
game.
That game. I think there are other apps that are very clearly
like Cafe Mix, like that kind of stuff.
Kid focused, where it's like, Nintendo hasn't really put out a new mobile app in years. Like there's a couple that are holding on for dear life. You got Mario Kart, you got Fire Emblem, but it's like
Fire Emblem is not for kids.
I'm just saying on mobile at all. Like they have a very few things left, and they don't seem to be introducing anything else.
And even in the beginning, even though they knew that kids were coming up most likely into gaming on mobile, the mobile strategy was never aimed towards kids, which is always a head scratcher for me, because it's like, well, this is an opportunity right now for you to make some kid content. And it was like all the mobile games on for Nintendo, and definitely the most popular ones were like Fire Emblem. So it was really not meant for that audience at all.
It always felt to me like, that was made at a moment of weakness when the Wii U was tanking, and it was like, we got to do something here.
Panic.
And now that things have changed, the direction has turned. It's like, we don't need to deal with that mobile stuff anymore.
I know.
We don't need to
that was beneath us.
We don't need to stoop to that. But again, like if you're thinking 10 years from now, like this is the kind of thing. It's like, no, we actually should be getting some stuff out on mobile. We've broken the seal on that. We're over that. Let's get going.
And like redo your mobile strategy so it's specifically focused on kids.
Right.
Like do the merch too, but forget that the kids are entering in on a Switch 2. They're not going to.
Right.
They're not going
You've already said that they're not.
They're not going to.
It.
No one is doing that.
Right.
So you better get them some other way.
Right. So that's the piece of the strategy where it's like, you might be missing out on a big piece of this.
And it could be too late.
Right here, actually.
Yeah.
Exactly. So a lot of this is stuff like we will not know for 5 years, 10 years. That's when we're going to find out.
Yeah.
So, whatever they're doing is going to lay the groundwork for this, of how they're kind of competing in this new ecosystem that's very murky. Like, what will Roblox be in? We don't know.
Yeah.
It's so new. Like, is it going to continue? Is it going to crash? Is it going to splinter into this other thing? We don't.
Or could there be another thing?
Another thing could enter into the exactly.
Or
exactly.
does the habits change so much where it's just a different beast altogether? Like it's just. People are not gaming the same way
and this
anymore.
I mean, we're talking about Nintendo here, but anybody who's entrenched in kind of the classic console ecosystem is having this same conversation as well. Obviously, it's most relevant to us about Nintendo, and they have one of the more interesting scenarios to look at. But this
also Nintendo
impacts everybody.
And Nintendo has always been like a very family-friendly, kid-first, kind of like safe place for kids kind of company. So they want kids to be their bread and butter. They want kids to be a huge part of their ecosystem. They understand that to be healthy and to, stay relevant for a long time, they have to keep replenishing with the new generation, especially given the stuff that content that they put out. So I would say it's even more risky for Nintendo than, say, for a PlayStation or an Xbox. So they have a much different mix of audiences.
Right.
So it would be very interesting to see if their current strategies around sort of, well, they're not coming in through our dedicated gaming consoles, so we got to get them through merch and through other experiences. Is that going to work? Is it too little? Is it too late? We don't know.
Doomed, as always.
I look forward to getting a block amiibo on eBay for $500.
Yes.
So it's pretty cute. Little wooden amiibo, pretty cute.
I might want one, actually.
Kind of cute.
I'm the problem. I know it.
You are the scalper.
I know it. I'm the problem.
Can I squeeze my body into a tiny kid-sized shirt? Probably.
You might actually.
Probably. Anyways, what do you guys think? Have you thought about this at all? Maybe you don't care.
Maybe you've seen this in your life.
Maybe you've seen this in your life. We definitely experienced it in our life. Like when I talk to my cousins who are huge gamers, and I ask them, "Hey, you got a Switch 2? You're interested?" Nope, not at all.
Loser.
Yeah. Old lady loser. Yeah, so interesting topic that we'll continue to see what happens in the coming years. But yeah, we wanted to just put these thoughts out in the universe.
Yes.
All right, we're going to wrap it up, and we'll see you later. Bye.
Bye.